What is up? Welcome back to another edition of the PFF podcast. No Sam Monson today. It's just me, Mike Renner, joined by Steve Palazzolo, taking through all the games. Let's get right into the games. Let's kick it off with the Vikings traveling to Atlanta to face the Falcons, two of the NFC's best. Two teams that would, if season ended today, be in the playoffs. Falcons are a 3-point favorite in this one at home. Steve, break it down for me.
Atlanta is better than I think people want to give them credit for. We're starting to see it in recent weeks. They continue to show well in our metrics and our numbers. Matt Ryan's the hottest quarterback in the entire NFL. And, Mike, the Case Keenum wheels have to fall off at some point, right?
I don't know if they're going to fall off. There's a lot of things to like about Case Keenum. The biggest thing is the fact that he's converting pressure to sacks at one of the lowest rates in the NFL, which is huge for that offense.
They're not having negative plays.
Yeah, not having negative plays. So I'm not sure that Keenum's going to fall off. I don't think he's a quarterback, that high-level quarterback is, a surefire franchise guy at this point. But like you mentioned, the way Atlanta's playing right now is what's impressed me the most. Matt Ryan, highest-rated quarterback in the NFL over the past 3 weeks. That offense starting to look like the offense we saw in 2016.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm seeing as well. I mean, Ryan's been throwing the ball extremely well, bouncing back from early season. He was just completely average. He was just not the same Matt Ryan. So with what he's doing, and then that defensive line, last year at this time, it felt like the Atlanta defense was starting to kind of take form, and they're flying around the field, and they got speed. They're actually a much more better rounded team now. Dontari Poe can create pressure in the middle, along with Grady Jarrett, and Adrian Claiborne's on this unbelievable hot streak, aided a little bit by Chaz Green, but you still got to give him credit for playing the best football of his career. Tack McKinley, their rookies getting after the QB. Brooks Reed, I mean, they're rolling 7 or 8 deep up front, and guys that can get after the quarterback. So this defense is solid. Matt Ryan's hot. And, I think Atlanta is a team down the stretch that everybody's going to have to really worry about.
Yeah, actually, Daniel Kelly, one of our editors here, asked me to write an article about, this was like 2 or 3 weeks ago, asked me if I was interested in writing an article about a team that could get hot down the stretch. What team I thought that would be, and I said I thought it was the Atlanta Falcons. Because of the defense, I think is better, like you mentioned, than a season ago. And all it took was get that offense back on track, and all of a sudden that team is dangerous. Going to be, I think they'll compete in this one. I'm still going to lean Minnesota, though.
You are leaning Minnesota.
I'm still leaning Minnesota. I just think that is a very complete team at this point.
Well, this is the game I'm probably going to have my eyes glued to more than any. I'm looking forward to it, and I just think I'm picking Atlanta because I think they're just going to do damage down the stretch, and as Eric Eager pointed out to me, or to everyone on Twitter, same record that they had last year at this time, and they went to the Super Bowl.
Interesting.
NFC's loaded.
Yeah, this one's coin flip for me, but like I said, leaning Minnesota. All right, let's keep it moving. On to the Lions, who travel to Baltimore to face the Ravens. Ravens, a 3-point favorite in this one at home.
Wow.
Should they be favored?
They're just a weird team to break down, right?
Yeah.
So the Ravens, the Titans, every week we can't figure out these teams. I'm starting to figure out the Ravens. They play some bad quarterbacks and they look good defensively. So they are a little inflated with their defensive numbers, going up against Tom Savage last week and Brett Hundley the week before.
It really is amazing, their schedule of backup quarterbacks that they've seen. Like the luck that they've gotten in terms of who they faced is unbelievable. Like Jimmy Smith putting up these amazing numbers at cornerback, but it's so aided by the fact that the quarterbacks they've played are just maybe the easiest stretch of QBs anyone's faced this entire season.
Yeah, so I don't think they're as fearsome of a defense as maybe the stats would show. I do love, we always talk about Michael Pierce and Brandon Williams up front and what they do against the run. I still think there is that legit, just fundamentally sound part of the Ravens defense where those guys are going to play well, and Terrell Suggs setting the edge, and C.J. Mosley patrolling the middle. So I do think they are a good, tough defense. But, man, that offense, and
that's what
Flacco averaging, 5.3 yards per attempt. I mean, it's just bad. Lowest yards, lowest average depth of target. I just worry about that offense.
That, to me, is the biggest matchup in the game. It's they only scored, 23 on the Texans, whose Texans defense has been a shell of itself this year. I'm not sure they get to 20.
Thanks to the punter.
I'm not sure they get to 20 against Detroit in this one. I just don't see – Detroit's fine defense, but like you said, the Ravens just probably the least talented offense in the NFL at the moment.
I'm with you there. So I took Detroit in this. They're that team that we've liked to doubt the entire season, but I think still the more you see them, they're not great. They're a middle of the road type of team, but I think that it comes down to the quarterbacks for me, and I trust Stafford in that Detroit passing game a lot more than I trust Baltimore's.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's keep it moving to the Patriots, who are 9-point favorites on the road against the Buffalo Bills. Divisional game there. Do the Bills have a chance in this one?
No, but I wouldn't. No, probably not. But I wouldn't be surprised if this is a game you've got Tyrod back there, and they've looked a little bit better. You know, they looked pretty good last week against Kansas City, as much as Kansas City's struggling. And, you know, maybe they can get back to early in the season where they were playing some solid defense and keeping it close with Tyrod at the helm. I think that's their best bet. Last 3 games, I've seen a lot of stats floating around Twitter. Last 3 games, Brady in Buffalo pretty much dominated. But I think what you have with New England against division teams, there's probably like one game a year that the Bills, the Dolphins, and the Jets all get against Brady in New England where they kind of give them a little bit of trouble, like enough of a scare, right? So this could be that game where the Bills kind of keep it close, and I still think the Patriots end up winning.
Yeah, it really is just the Patriots right now are unbelievable. Just Tom Brady's, all his stats are just stupid at the moment. How he's putting it up. His passer rating under pressure is 105.6.
We don't have the numbers, but his numbers when he actually gets hit, so not just pressure, when he gets hit, are actually better. And there was a couple plays on Sunday.
Doesn't even make sense.
When he's getting destroyed and still making big throws. One of them was 13-yard touchdown to Gronk.
It just doesn't even make. And Bills' defense, they looked good last week against Alex Smith. It's going to be a little different than Alex Smith. Week. It's
here's my thing to watch though. Buffalo against San Diego. I'm doing it again. It's week 13. The Los Angeles Chargers. I saw the bolt and I said, boom, San Diego. The Chargers and the Saints a couple weeks ago, absolutely destroyed on the ground. And while New England is a pass-first team, obviously with Brady, they use a fullback more than any team in the league. Dion Lewis looks great.
Yes.
Running the football. That offensive line's coming together. I'm just interested to see if they do actually, even with Brady at quarterback, just try to pound the ball, take advantage of the fact that Buffalo's defensive front is just overmatched against the run. So that'd be the thing to watch.
To shut down New England right now, you need both. You need both run defense and pass defense to even have a chance. And like you said, New England can beat you either way. And with the weakness on that Buffalo front, yeah, I think they could go run heavy. I think this one won't be close.
We got New England.
Yeah.
We all have New England.
New England. All right, let's keep it going to the 49ers, who travel to the Chicago Bears. Bears 3-point favorite, but Jimmy G.
It's Jimmy G time.
Jimmy G. The era kicks off in San Francisco.
He knows the language. He knows the language enough. He's got the Shanahan system.
We'll see. Five game tryout here for Jimmy G. Is he? What do we expect from him?
I love how Sam points out that C.J. Beathard is way more experienced than Jimmy G in the NFL. It's just pure snap count.
Wild, yeah.
Isn't it? Just based off perception. We've been talking about Jimmy G trade rumors for a year and a half now.
And C.J. Beathard was drafted almost, similarly. Jimmy G ended the second round, Beathard a round later, but yeah, the perception is very different at this point. Yeah.
No, I do like Garoppolo. I know he only had 3 snaps on Sunday against Seattle, and you saw him break the pocket, make a nice throw. He's got that element of quick release. He reminds me of Matt Hasselbeck, and Matt Hasselbeck ran that old school West Coast offense in Seattle to a T. Quick release. Could extend plays if he needed to. Throws for some touch. Doesn't have a cannon for an arm. I think that's what Garoppolo is, and I think he'll start showing that over the next few weeks. Just a solid quarterback, and in today's NFL, one that you could build around with the right pieces.
This is a fun game though because Vic Fangio throws a lot at opposing quarterbacks in terms of window dressing coverages, using a lot of different coverages. So I think it'll be a good test in terms of he's shut down some pretty good quarterbacks this year. Cam Newton, obviously the most notable, but that Chicago defense, like we've mentioned before, obviously better than their offense, but probably better than the general perception on them. So this one will be fun to watch. It actually gives you something to watch in a game of two teams that aren't even going to sniff the playoffs.
I'm with you there. I want to see, and I'm still watching Trubisky and his developments on the offense. I want to see them unleash him a little bit more. I think we're almost closing in on, last year we kind of gave Jared Goff a bit of a pass because of his supporting cast and the situation. I don't think that the play calling is as bad in Chicago as it was maybe with the Rams last year. But when you look at the guys that Trubisky's throwing to, the very average Taylor, Dontrell Inman, the Madden create a player without changing any attributes. Is that what we called him, Dontrell Inman? That's kind of the issue with Trubisky. Are we ever going to be able to get a real feel for what he is, given the supporting cast over there in Chicago? But I'd love to I am interested in watching his development down the stretch here.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going to go with Chicago, though, on this one because
I'm going Jimmy G in San Francisco. I think he adds a little spark.
Be fun to watch, though. All right. On to the Bucs, who traveled to Green Bay to face the Packers. Packers, a 2-point favorite. Jameis Winston may be playing in this one. He was practicing this week, so it might be Jameis time. Again, there for Tampa. Hundley time still, though, in Green Bay. Should they be favored in this one, even if Winston's back healthy?
No. Look, Mike, Hundley was not great on Sunday night, despite 130 passer rating. He made a couple decent throws. And I said it on, now this is the third podcast I've said it. I thought his best throw was 4th and 6. I had to convert it late in the game, throws it up and away from coverage. It wasn't, there was some busted coverages on deep balls, and there was a 55-yard screen or whatever it is. He had some inflated stats. He wasn't great against Pittsburgh.
Yeah, it's still like a training wheels-ish offense that they're running with him. It really limited, a lot of underneath stuff, when a lot of like designed, not screens, but slant flats to where it's not, he's not doing too much.
Well, they're running slant flats with
with
Rodgers.
That's
all
Rodgers'
day too.
bread and butter, but like it still is not a this full wide open offense that they're running with him. But if he just, like I've said before, when the ball leaves his hand, he can throw accurately down the field, and Tampa Bay is going to give you some chances down the field. I'll just say.
Oh no, Hundley can make a few throws. I just keep going back to the phrase that Zach used a couple weeks ago. Hundley against Baltimore 2 weeks ago. He wasn't good before the snap or after the snap. Couldn't read it on either end. That's generally problematic.
You should be good at least one of those.
What are you laughing at now? You love that quote? I keep calling Zach. Poor Hundley. Putting Zach on the spot here. Anybody on Green Bay's defense, Mike? To just keep an eye on. I feel like they've got that defense just boggles my mind every single year. I feel like there's talent. They show it sometimes during the season. They underachieve at other times. What do you make of that D?
I'll say Demarius Randall hasn't been terrible lately. That's an interesting thing to watch because he's been his pass coverage grade over the last 2 games pretty good, and he's actually been in good coverage. You watched him a season ago, and there were almost no targets where he was contesting. He's actually contesting targets. Even that touchdown he allowed against Baltimore to Mike Williams, he's right there at the catch point. That to me is the biggest thing for Green Bay. If they can actually get a cornerback who, a number one sort of cornerback, and then have Kevin King develop, because their secondary has just been so bad for so long after Charles Woodson, and they let Casey Hayward go.
But I feel like so many guys, when I look up and down their defense, have played well at some point in their career.
Yeah.
From Demarius Randall and some of these other guys, if they could put it all together, it's not a bad defense. Can I ask you a start-sit question real quick?
Go for it.
My Dynasty League, which I'm dominating. Experts, Dynasty League, kind of dominating, but I got Jordy Nelson, Mike. He only has 103 yards since Rodgers went down. That was week 7. Since week 7, Jordy only has 103 yards. Devontae Adams, who I think has clearly emerged as the top receiver in Green Bay, I have him on the team too. But what do I do with Jordy?
Even before the injury, though, Aaron Rodgers' injury, he wasn't really putting up. He didn't look like Jordy of old. I'll just say he might be
losing a step every year.
And 2 years after an ACL, the separation's not what it once was, which is sad to see.
He's creeping back toward retirement.
Yeah, that's
unfortunately.
He's definitely lost step. In this one, though, I'm still going with Green Bay. I still think that Bucs defense is in the trials.
I also took Green Bay, even though not a slam dunk with Hundley, and even though they've won without Jameis, I think Jameis does give them a good chance to win.
All right, let's go on to the Colts, who travel to the Jaguars. AFC South battle. Jaguars 9-point favorites. This one might be tough for Jacoby Brissett. Might be a tough matchup for him.
Yeah, every defense. Every Jacksonville opponent. It's tough going up against that defense. They have truly emerged as one of the best pass defenses in the NFL. They've got this, the variety of, style of playmakers on the back end, the pass rush. They're tough to go up against, even though I know they lost last week in the Blaine Gabbert revenge game. And people are talking. Well, I'm not getting into Blaine right now, but people are talking about Blaine as the future with the Cardinals and everything. But he struggled last week too.
Yeah, that wasn't good. He wasn't playing that well. It
Right.
just kind of got a handful of lucky plays.
So every quarterback this year, I think, has pretty much struggled against this Jacksonville defense. So you got to find a way to.
Their safeties got torched for Jacksonville, which is probably the weakest part of their defense.
If anything,
if you have to say, but they're still fairly solid.
And I think the Jags linebackers are good, but it's not like this track record of Telvin Smith being unbelievable. You can beat him with play action and stuff like that. So you need a lot of things to come together, I think, for Brissett and that Indy offense to have a good game.
Yeah, Gabbert last week targeted A.J. Boye and Jalen Ramsey 12 times, and they allowed a combined 28 yards on those 12 targets.
Yeah, those guys are good, man.
You can't. You have to game plan some way around them because targeting them just not going to do anything for you.
I feel like we need to talk about A.J. Boye more. The last 2 seasons, I mean, such a breakout. He'd only had 855 snaps to his name coming into the 2016 season, has this absolute breakout in a contract year. The Jags go and get him. Come into the year, we don't know. Is it just a one-year wonder? What is it? But he's a good long corner who can move, play off coverage, play press, and boy, is he good. So
how does that work? Like, how do guys like that happen? I know, like someone like Tremont Williams was in a similar, a UDFA, ends up, just 3 years of not even seeing the field. Then all of a sudden, as soon as he does get legit playing time, he's one of the top corners in the NFL. Is it that hard to identify talent, or was he not actually good before and then got good? I don't know how that works.
It has to be a work ethic thing. I mean, if you look over time, and if a guy struggles in his first 800 to 1,000 snaps, I don't know how many guys really come out of it. It's a small percentage. But it has to be a work ethic, behind the scenes, something's going on where he's working at his game to get better. And, it was fair to us to question if he was a one-year wonder, but now it's also fair to give him proper credit. He's one of the best corners in the league over the last 2 years, hands down.
Yeah, this one I don't think will be close. The Colts' relative strengths are not doing them any favors in this one.
Anything to watch on the Colts side down the stretch here?
No. not to be. I mean, maybe
Brissett remains.
I was gonna say
remains
Brissett,
intriguing.
Like Brissett's playing better than you'd expect for a where he was drafted and what they traded for him, but he's still not playing to the level to where I'm gonna even consider anyone would consider trading even a third rounder for him at this point.
I'm just gonna add this one note though. If Andrew Luck was the quarterback and able to carry them a little bit more than Brissett, there might be a story with the Indianapolis defense. They're not great, but guys like Jonathan Hankins, Al Woods, Rashawn Melvin, just these veterans that they brought in, Jabal Sheard's played really well. They've gotten some decent years out of a lot of guys that would probably get a little bit more publicity if they weren't so bad overall.
That Colts team just needs they need to replace Vontae Davis. That's when they were legitimate Super Bowl contenders with Andrew Luck. They had Vontae Davis playing at a high level. They need some sort of star power there on that defense.
Just
Hooker was looking like
youth
it, but something
everywhere
in there. So, in this one, I don't think it matters. Jags.
Yeah, we're taking the Jags.
All right, on to the Broncos, who travel to Miami to face the Dolphins. Adam Gase against his old team. Broncos are a 1.5-point favorite on the road.
This is a bad football game, I think.
Yeah, this might be, in terms of watchability, at the bottom this week, towards the bottom.
Yeah, I don't have much. Jay Cutler's coming back. Matt Moore, disappointed. Even Matt Moore's been this career-long backup who I think, always seemed to play well when he got a chance. That was not the case this season. When given a chance, he's been as bad, if not worse, than Jay Cutler. So worse than Jay Cutler, to be honest. So it's an ugly offense for Miami, and their defense has pretty much been just as bad, despite a defensive line that can make things difficult. So like last week against New England, they hit Brady a bunch and they made it pretty difficult. They're just very there's just a lot of busts in their zone coverage on the back end. They're really bad at playing cover 3, and there's always guys that seem to be out of place. So they need to shore up a lot on the back end in Miami.
Yeah, they've I think allowed the most yards on throws, 15+ yards down the field of any defense. There's holes to be exploited there in that Miami defense. I will say though, I am very upset at myself for buying into the Broncos after the first few weeks of the season, when I said at the beginning of the year that they were a prime regression candidate. Just looking at that roster up and down, looking at the coaching change that they had.
Yeah, we should have stuck with our initial feeling on them and the Chargers, Mike.
I will say though, I did
You're off the bandwagon. The Chargers bandwagon.
I
You're
said
off.
Super Bowl bandwagon.
You jumped off, Mike.
Yeah, the Super Bowl bandwagon. They're still going to make the playoffs.
Mike, you've got bruises all over you. You jumped off. It was going full steam ahead, and you jumped.
Okay, I'd like to run the tape back on that and see what I actually said. At some point, I said off the Super Bowl bandwagon.
Taylor, find the tape.
It was Super Bowl bandwagon.
Taylor, go look through the last 86 podcasts and find the tape.
At one point, someone's going to remember. I said Super Bowl bandwagon. But Denver's in free fall. That's 7 straight losses. That's unbelievable. For as talented as that defense is, and they have talent on offense too, just for the quarterback position to completely derail their season like this. The
quarterback position's been bad. I think the offensive line's been inconsistent. My biggest concern with that defense, though, is they're taking this talented defense, putting them in a new scheme, which is closer to this Miami scheme, which is a little bit more zone-heavy. So we've been saying that all year. They just didn't. The Denver Broncos were one of those teams. I feel like every team can have some sort of positive energy coming out of the offseason, like, hey, this was our draft, this was our free agency. In Denver, it was like, I don't really love everything that they did, and I think it started.
Well, the positive energy was, hey, is Paxton Lynch going to take the next step? And then once he got benched, it's like, that's not good. Paxton Lynch still doesn't look good, even when he got his time. He got hurt though last week. Won't be in this one probably. Send me in. I don't think it matters though.
I'm taking Miami.
I was going to say, I think Denver still wins just because Miami's that bad.
I'm taking Miami because I've got this thing about their defensive line. It's just amazing to me, as bad as they are as a team, that they've got a pretty solid defensive line. So I always bank on them. And
12 straight losses by these two teams combined going into this one. So
yeah,
got that. Someone won't lose.
This will not be making TV one for me Sunday at 1.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
That's a safe bet. Like I said, I'm still going Denver. This episode is brought to you by PredictionMachine.com. Prediction Machine, a new generation in sports analytics where they play the games 50,000 times before they're actually played. Make better picks with proven data-driven analysis. Subscribe to PredictionMachine.com today and earn a $5 credit that can be used towards the purchase of any package. And with that Prediction Machine plug, we'll give you our predictors in-house, George Sharuri and Eric Eager, for their Lock of the Week.
George C.
Lock of the Week time. It is sort of a surprise that we're actually here at Week 13. The odds were against us, but you know what? We made it. I'm George. I'm joined by Eric. Eric, you're over there in Wisconsin. How's everything going?
We've been doing nothing but beating the odds, George.
That's a little aggressive. Let's try.
It is a little aggressive.
Let's try that again. Eric, how is everything going?
Things are going well. We went 4-1 last week, which makes me happy.
But not too happy. Not too happy. You're mildly happy.
We broke our string of winning two locks and then losing. We've won 3 locks in a row now. We're 9-3. So things are looking good.
This is way too positive. We need to sort of back off here, which is that now that we've won 9 locks, we are destined to lose the rest of the season so that we just barely finish above 500. But we're still going to try. We're still going to give it our all. We're fresh off a nice little double dip with New England. Pulled off that nice 16-pointer last week, despite the fumble 6. So, anyone tells you 16 is too much, they're wrong. It can be right. This week, though.
Yeah, I have to tell the listeners, though, that George was really the one. Our model did say New England. Our model came out and spit out New England. I was very skeptical of that pick, but George was the one, I think, in multiple settings, really, in his life, that pushed that pick over the finish line. And so, I could sense New England up 11 in that fourth quarter, willing themselves across the goal line for George.
Oh, man. I feel vindicated because they had a fumble 6. Brady threw a bad pick. And
they got stuffed on 4th down in Miami territory.
Yep. I've blacked that out of my memory, clearly. But look, when people have no idea how good Belichick is at shutting down a terrible offense, you got to take advantage. Anyways, onward we go. This week, making a fun trip. Anytime you can go down to NOLA, you got to take that opportunity. And it's Saints and Panthers. This should be a great one. 4.5 points is the spread. New Orleans is favored, and we are rocking with the Saints. So before we tell you why, real quick, main counterpoint, what worries you the most?
I think it's the health in New Orleans. I think the last 2 weeks we've seen that, with Marshawn Lattimore out, Washington was able to move the ball against them, even though, New Orleans won. They didn't cover last week. The Rams not only covered against them, but won outright. So you saw some issues there. Teron Armstead will probably be out this week. Lattimore practiced one day this week and then didn't practice the next day, so he could be, iffy. And so, you have those kind of, issues health-wise. I think the difference between this week and the last 2 weeks, though, is that the team that the Saints are playing probably doesn't have the horses to combat such, deficiencies in the personnel of the Saints.
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot to add there in the counterpoint. My big issue was Marshawn Lattimore. The guy's insane. But nice lead in here. What's the main reason that we like this? I think this is an interesting way to kind of look at this game. So take it away. Number one thing.
I think it's Cam Newton. Cam Newton was one of the least accurate passers, and I think the least accurate passer in the league a season ago, and he's kind of continued that trend this year. Whether that be due to injury, I think right now he's dealing with a thumb, or just kind of just being the high variance player he is. The Panthers have only passed for 200 or more yards in 4 of their 11 games, and so they've really had difficulties basically all season moving the ball downfield. Greg Olsen re-injured his foot last week against the Jets, and aside from Devin Funchess, who's had kind of a breakout year. Their other receivers are guys like Russell Shepard and Kalen Clay, which I don't think anybody's going to confuse with, starting caliber type of receivers in the league. So, in terms of trying to take advantage of the Saints, I just don't think they have the horses, and I don't think Cam can hit them even if they are open.
Bold call. See, I think really you just don't like Cam Newton's hats.
Oh, man. It's more of like a jealousy thing. I can't pull them off myself, and so I just project.
That makes sense. I don't have that same issue. I wear similar hats like that all around DC, and I just fit in. I look normal. But no, I agree with all those things. To kind of back that up, something that I think we notice a lot with Cam Newton is he's just continually sailing the ball over the heads of his receivers. And with the thumb, I think this has been a little bit of a bigger issue. And last week against the Jets, even when he was throwing from a clean pocket, he overthrew his receivers on 21% of his passes. That was the most by any quarterback from a clean pocket last week by a substantial margin, like 6 percentage points over Deshaun Kaiser. So, there's reason to be worried about his accuracy there. And then I think on the flip side, we should definitely talk about the Saints for a second because, while we're talking about the Panthers being deficient, the Saints are really good. And Drew Brees, while he struggled under pressure, has been great from a clean pocket. Best pass rating in the league, 114.3. And you think about the Carolina Panthers coverage, stat that I love, the pass rating they're allowing when they let the quarterback throw from a clean pocket is the 9th highest in the league. So their coverage not kind of holding up when the opposing quarterback has some time to make a decision. So long-winded way of saying Saints.
Yep, and Brees is the least pressured quarterback in the league. We know that how a quarterback performs when clean is a very stable metric, whereas how he performs when pressured is about 4 times less stable. The Panthers in the secondary have 4 of their 5 starters with PFF grades below 50, which is not good. And that would speak, I think, to the fact that they have that 9th highest passer rating allowed when clean. So, when we've made mistakes picking locks, I think we've focused too much on the deficiencies of the team we're picking against and not so much on whether the team that we've picked has the horses. The Saints certainly have the horses here, especially offensively. So we're pretty confident in this one.
I agree. Second that. Enjoy this week. Lots of good games. Speaking of which, if you want some more goodness, more picks. Our picks column with our 5 best bets of the week is up on the website, or will be up very shortly. That website is profootballdates.com. Sorry, Pro Football Folks. That's
What's Pro Football Dates?
don't worry. It's a site that it's a Mike Renner thing. He's trying. Yeah, whatever. Anyways, best of luck to Renner with his endeavors. But the website that you want to go to, profootballfocus.com.
While Mike focuses on dates, we focus on football.
Look, we're in support. Want to support Mike through this time. But yeah, you can get our 5 picks there, and then if you don't already have an Elite subscription, while you're at the website, make sure you get that, because that gives you all the picks against the spread and over/under, so that hopefully you can be successful this week and beyond. God willing, we'll be there with you next week as well. Best of luck, and
Lock it up.
you lock it up. Back to you guys.
Hey, thanks, guys. We're back to our breakdown of these games. Get right into it. Chiefs, -3.5, traveling to New York to face the Jets. If you would have told me that was going to be the line after week 1, I would have said you're absolutely nuts.
Should have been 13.5, right?
Yeah, that probably would have been after week 1. It is now 3.5, and the way the two teams are playing, it's like I can't even argue with that. That seems about right.
Yeah, I mean, look, we don't want to pile on Alex Smith because that seems to be the first guy that we look
It's very
at.
in vogue right nowadays to pile on him.
Well, look, he was
But he's not like that.
he was our number 2 graded quarterback after about 5 weeks. Since that point, he's about 30th. I mean, there's that is the beginning of the story for Kansas City. The other part of it, though, I think there are other holes on this team that they were able to hide early in the season. You know, the pass rush is not nearly as fierce as it's been in recent years, right? There's that they don't have that complement to Justin Houston. Houston's not really dominating the way he has in the past. He's not dropping into coverage as much as Chiefs fans are saying that he is, but still dropping into coverage quite a bit. The number 2 cornerback spot, I'm not saying it's been just purely bad. It's just been inconsistent week to week. You don't know when that's just going to be a big trouble spot opposite Marcus Peters. Reggie Ragland's playing great these last couple weeks. That was a nice pickup and a good fit for them. There's something to look for. But I just think there were some other holes on this team that have also popped up in addition to Alex Smith not playing well these last few weeks.
Yeah, the pass rushing thing is to me the biggest one, because I had high hopes for the unit with a guy like Chris Jones on the inside, Justin Houston back healthy on the outside, and D Ford, maybe one of the oddest careers of any pass rusher I've ever seen. If you thought he could have a year like he had that 4-week stretch from 2016, if he could put that together for a whole year, this looked like a fearsome pass rushing unit. But right now, they're in the bottom 10 in terms of our pass rushing grade. Bottom 5, actually, 29th in terms of pass rushing grade as a team. That's just, when you play man coverage like that, that's not going to get done. You have to pair that with a good pass rush, or else you're going to get torched on the field. And
yeah,
starting to see that.
And a man coverage team that plays, when you play tight man coverage, it just makes for a lot more tight window throws for opposing quarterbacks. And through the years, they've had a lot of success against good quarterbacks, made life difficult on them, and not having the pass rush and not having the consistent cover guys has made them a lot more inconsistent on the back end.
Revis, though. Darrell. Is there anything in the tank? Is there any reason for any sort of excitement, or is he going to be?
He's well rested.
Is he going to do the? Is he going to look like Jay Cutler coming out of retirement?
So last year when he was terrible, or was it? It was last year. Yeah, last year when he was terrible, it looked more like a disinterested.
There was some disinterest there,
right?
You just didn't seem to care.
I don't think it was like he's just too old and incapable. I feel like it was just you're unprepared. You didn't work at it. I'd like to think if he's coming back now, there was some level of preparation to make him, want to come back and play at a decent level.
Yeah, because he could. I mean, he's made enough money. He does not need to come back and play football. I'm guessing he probably wants to at this point. He's only 32 years old. It's like you shouldn't be.
That's old for
hitting
a corner,
the wall.
though.
It's old for a corner, but you shouldn't be just hitting a wall to where you can't play the position, especially for how high a level he played the position at initially.
Yeah. And there was a point. There was a point where he was being described as a guy that really wanted to make every last dollar to make things better for the players around him, for the always play the game so that he maximized his contract. And it did seem like it was odd that he was that disinterested last year. But I'll wait and see on him.
As I say, he's playing the Jets though, so if he's got anything to prove,
Robbie
if he has
Anderson,
any sort of point to prove, it's going to be in this game. He's going to want to come out. Yeah, a little motivation there.
Robbie Anderson now number 2, deep receiving yards in the NFL. Jets receiver.
Which is wild. It's that the McCown just is slinging it this year. He's been a lot better than I thought, but not going to be good enough to beat KC.
We have 3 people picking the Jets here, by the way.
Which is wild to me.
We have 3 people picking the Jets. We have everybody picking the Chargers.
Jeff Ratcliffe, who has the best record of any picker.
He does. So hopefully we gain a game on him.
Yeah,
we both
that's
take
an easy
Kansas
game.
City. But if those 3 people have their way, everybody picks the Chargers, we're talking about a tie at the top in the AFC West.
Someone said, I can't remember who, but after week 1, that the Chiefs weren't going to make the playoffs.
Who said that?
I said that.
You've been really wrong about the AFC West.
I said that though. Like that actually happened.
Why?
Because I didn't think they were that good, and they lost Eric Berry.
Oh, and then you jumped off the bandwagon of the.
And then
Chargers.
I kind of jumped on the KC's bandwagon at some point. But
How
I still
much
said
can you
that after week
contradict
1.
yourself, Mike. I don't want to hear it.
We'll see. We'll see what happens. But yeah, if they don't win this one, it is time to panic in KC. It is legitimately. I might be on board with starting Patrick Mahomes if they don't win this one.
I've been bringing that up. That was my preseason prediction, Mike. It didn't. This isn't going exactly as how I predicted in the preseason. I thought that Alex would just be that pathologically conservative quarterback, like Sam likes to say, so much that they were like, "That's it, we're going with Mahomes." But this has been more like Alex was great, Alex is terrible. Now maybe we make the move.
Yeah.
It seems like Jeff Schwartz, though, on Twitter, whose brother Mitchell is on the Chiefs. Jeff likes to continue to reiterate the fact that he knows people on the Chiefs, aka his brother. And that they're not going
the offensive line's fault.
And that they're not going to Patrick Mahomes.
Okay.
That was what he kept saying.
But
and it's definitely not the offensive line's fault either.
It never is. All right, on to the Texans. Travel to Tennessee to face the Titans. Texans are just sad at this point, watching their football games. What could have been?
Brian Cushing's back.
Okay, that's going to make all the difference. Titans a 6.5-point favorite. And like I said, the Texans are just sad. Like it's like watching. I don't know what it's like watching. It's just not fun to watch, though, just because it could be better.
Am I crazy to think between Tennessee and Jacksonville, one of those teams is much more scary to me if I'm an AFC team in the playoffs, and that's Jacksonville.
Yes.
Right? I mean, Tennessee could stumble into an AFC South championship in very unimpressive fashion this year. Mm-hmm. They're just kind of lurking around. They're winning games.
That's anyone almost, it seems like, who has won the AFC South in the last 10 years.
No, I get that. But there's something about, say, Jacksonville and even Baltimore, if they get into the playoffs, because they at least are really strong on one side of the ball defensively, that they might be able to do some damage.
Well, I mean, the Titans, they're 7-4, but they have a point differential of negative 25 or 27 at this point. They've been outscored. They're 7-4, yet they've been outscored by 27 points over the course of the season. That about sums up how I feel about them being 7-4.
Yeah, no, I hear you. And look, Mariota's played a little bit better than the stats would show. There's still a little bit something lacking there, and the defense is very inconsistent there. But they're a better team than Houston right now.
Yeah, I agree. It's just like I said, Houston. You miss your best player on offense, your best player on defense. And it's hard to watch. So yeah, we're gonna go with Tennessee. On to the Browns. Travel to Los Angeles to face the Chargers. Chargers a 14-point favorite. But Josh Gordon is back. Someone to catch Deshaun Kaiser's deep balls. Someone to actually catch those balls.
Kaiser was awesome on Sunday.
He was. That was the best I've seen him by far. Still some third downs where he's holding on to the ball.
Yeah.
Still not completely polished, but big time throws down the field. He made about, I want to say 4 in that game, big time throws.
It was at least 4. At least 3 up the seam. The deep ball when he was getting pressured early in the game, he dropped it in a bucket.
The drop TD.
I mentioned on the QB pod he had about an 86 passer rating, but that dropped seam route in the end zone would bring his passer rating up to 103. Just in case you're using one game passer rating to judge a guy. So he played well. My concern with Kaiser is always how he handles success. How he builds on success, because he's had games like this before at Notre Dame.
Yeah.
The next week I always worry about, and then with the Chargers, fearsome pass rush with Bosa and Ingram. Casey Hayward not going to play now, I think.
Is that right?
Death of his brother, potentially.
Oh, that's...
So, best corner in the league, Casey Hayward. Is that right?
That's what Sam said. But then Sam said maybe the best corner in the league. I was like, Sam, can't have it both ways.
Well, he may be, and Marshawn Lattimore may be, and Jalen Ramsey may be, and A.J. Boye may be, and Patrick Peterson may be. But they're all up there.
Really having a year, though. If he's out, that is a big – I'm not going to sway me towards the Browns, but it's like that's a pretty big loss, especially going up against Josh Gordon.
No, I hear. What does Josh Gordon have at this point? Do we know?
He's got a good comeback story. He's got a feel-good story is what he's got.
Oh,
I have no clue what he has.
I'm with the feel-good story. He was incredible when he was on the field. So my biggest interest here, how does Kizer bounce back from last week's good game? Can the Chargers keep it rolling? That a pass offense. Keenan Allen looking great.
Yeah, I think the Chargers, Bosa and Ingram, might combine for about 6 or 7 sacks in this one with the way Kizer holds on to the rock.
No, that's a good point.
And the fact that Joe Thomas left tackle has been an issue with Spencer Drango there, a lot more so than when Joe Thomas was in there. So.
Yeah, Joe's pretty awesome. So we're taking the Chargers.
We're taking the Chargers. 14-point spread, still a little rich for my blood, but I think they win pretty handily. On to the Panthers, who travel to New Orleans to face the Saints. Marshawn Lattimore may play in this one. It's honestly, if he doesn't play, I regret so much picking them a week ago, because when he doesn't play, that defense it's legitimately goes from a competent, good defense to atrocious. To a sieve in the
Other than week 2, he was there when they got torched by Brady in the New England passing attack. But yeah, there was definite trickle down effect last week. I don't mean to call Kenny Vaccaro out for the 3rd straight podcast this week, but he had a rough game against Carolina. I end up repeating myself a lot, Taylor, and you're smiling like, yeah, I heard that one before. Vaccaro got picked apart playing in the slot. You're right. It's a completely different defense when they don't have, Lattimore locking down that one side. It's a big game. NFC South. I had some concerns about the way Breeze played down the stretch, threw a ton of passes into coverage. Kamara had most of his passing yards after the catch. Kamara's unbelievable. They got to get him the ball a little bit more. I think New Orleans is going to need Breeze a lot more down the stretch here when they start to play Atlanta, playing Carolina here. There's some big games where Breeze has kind of been coasting along in game manager mode most of the year because of a good run game, because of good defense. We got to see the old Breeze, I think, in these next few games. It might have a few more shootouts.
These two teams have the exact same record. They are both 8-3, which they don't feel like they're both 8-3. The Panthers don't feel like an 8-3 team right now to me. I don't know what it is.
Well, because they've been more of a roller coaster, and the Saints were like lose 2 really badly, win 8, and then lose at Los Angeles.
To a good team, on the road. I don't know what to make of Carolina, if they're a legitimate contender at this point or not, just in terms of like their grading. Like their overall grade right now is 15th. And just if you do our overall team grade of them is 15th best in the NFL. They don't feel like I said, they don't feel like an 8-3 team.
Yeah, that I think that's fair. And it's just they've just been a roller coaster ride. With Cam's been a bit of a roller coaster. This is his lowest graded season of his entire career. Mm-hmm. And it goes back to that preseason analysis that we had. They're going to go to their short passing game. They're going to completely change him. We did a well actually on it this week where he's not attacking down the field nearly as much. So still trying to figure out what Carolina is, and I still think they are as well. But at their high end, I think they're a tough defense, and they're an offense that can be difficult to prepare for, but Cam just needs to hit throws.
Yeah, that is the biggest thing. Like I said, if Marshawn Lattimore's out in this one, I think I would lean Carolina. If Marshawn Lattimore's in, I'm definitely going New Orleans.
He's that effective that I think that's fair. I'm leaning New Orleans. I'd probably lean New Orleans either way, because I don't think Breeze has the same type of game as he did last week.
It's that defense. Just it just seems like they bust more coverages with Lattimore. I don't know. It's a lot of things. Just they did not look like themselves. So I'll like I said, I'll lean.
I thought that I gave the Rams a lot of credit for their game plan too. Mm-hmm. I thought they did a really good job, spread the ball around quite a bit. They had a really good game plan to attack New Orleans, and of course, not having Lattimore helped.
Yep. All right. On to the team we just mentioned, the Rams, who traveled to Arizona to face the Cardinals. Rams, a 7-point favorite in that one. Break it down for me.
The Rams are good.
Mm-hmm.
Blaine Gabbert is getting some credit.
Mm-hmm.
He's still Blaine Gabbert.
That's correct.
I don't think he's a future starter. I think Arizona's talking about maybe he's the guy going forward. I'm not seeing it just yet. The Rams, we're creeping toward the part of the season where I kept expecting the wheels to fall off for the Rams a little bit and Seattle to just overtake them in the NFC West. I'm not sure it's going to happen. Is it going to happen?
It's not going to happen. With Sherman and Chancellor out, there's no chance that the Rams are going to win the NFC West.
The Rams have enough. Goff's got a solid 4-game stretch going. They have enough on offense. They game plan well. They spread the ball around. They use Todd Gurley as a runner out of the backfield. Aaron Donald's still dominating on the defensive side of the ball. I think they have enough to maybe hold off the Seahawks down the stretch here and win the division, so I definitely like the Rams here.
I like the Rams as well. The Arizona is interesting, though. The fact that they beat the Jaguars a week ago, and while, like I said, Gabbert didn't play well, he had some throws that were good. It was better than...
It was a McCowney type game.
Yeah,
there was some good and some
a little
bad.
high variance.
Right.
And the bounces went his way to some degree. Yeah, I do, though, think L.A., just what they do offensively is so impressive, and it's just so well schemed that they'll be able to exploit the weaknesses outside of Patrick Peterson in that defense.
Yeah, I think so, too. Look, Arizona's defense, they were kind of like the Carolina offense for me coming into the season. They had so many fun, new, versatile pieces. I wanted to see how they fit. Now you've got a guy like Budda Baker. Mm-hmm. They finally unleashed him in recent weeks, and he's playing well. So I think that's something to keep an eye on. Watch, Budda only has 215 snaps to his name this season, started the last 2 games, played the majority of the last 3 games, just watching his development and some of these other young guys on Arizona. Because they're pretty, they're out of it, but I think that's what to keep an eye on.
The one thing on Arizona that I kind of do want to talk about is just Tyrann Mathieu. Just from watching him, it just looks like like we mentioned with Jordan Nelson, it looks like he's lost a step after the ACL.
Slow, right?
And it's like hard to watch because, man, he was on pace to be the ultimate Swiss Army knife type weapon in that secondary, tears his ACL, and just has not been that. Not even
Hopefully
close
it's
to
just
guy.
another year to get back. But my comp for him coming out of college was Antoine Winfield.
Yeah.
And his peak, 2015, was very Antoine Winfield-like, which is play the slot, play the run like a linebacker, pass rush effectively. The ability to just cover slot receivers, play the run like a linebacker, and get after the quarterback is so incredible for guys to pull it off, and Matthew was doing it. I would like to see him get back on track there. But, yeah, it's been rough at times this year.
All right. We both went Rams, though, in that one. On to the Giants, who travel to the Raiders. Raiders a 9-point favorite. The Giants will not be starting, though. Eli Manning. What was your take on that whole fiasco that brought Twitter to its knees?
Yeah, I know, right? I don't hate it overall. I mean, look, either way, I think Eli's time. Sam doesn't think this is the case. I think Eli's time in New York is done. Mm-hmm. They're going to draft a quarterback next year. Mm-hmm. And there are some people who said, I think they're just putting themselves in position to make sure that they get one of those top 3 picks in the draft. I don't think they're crazy for doing that. And look, last year we were trashing Eli for not playing well.
Yeah, we were trashing him before it was cool to trash him.
Well, we were trashing him when they were 11-5.
The hipster.
And we had people.
Yeah.
And people were tweeting us that he was making game-winning audibles and all these different things. And it was like, no, look, he is not playing well. They're winning despite him. This year, he was okay. Everything else around him fell apart, from injuries to just, offensive line being bad. So, if anything, last year he deserved to get benched.
Yeah.
I just think they're trying to set themselves up to get their next quarterback.
No, yeah, I do too. His time is obviously done. You don't bench him this late in the season if you think he's going to be your quarterback of the future. The thing is, though, it's like Geno Smith's not your quarterback of the future either. It definitely reeks of tanking, which no one wants to say, but it seems like they're tanking.
Well, that's essentially what I'm saying. They're not going to figure anything out about Geno Smith or Davis Webb in these next few games. That's going to be like, nope, we don't need Josh Rosen.
Yeah.
We don't need Lamar Jackson. We don't need these guys.
Yeah.
It's just not going to happen. I don't care if Geno looks like Peyton Manning over the next 5 games. It's not happening. You're still going to draft a guy, and that's just where they are. Yeah, it's a bad roster. They overachieved last year, and regression was inevitable this year. Maybe not as hard as it showed.
Yeah, with Geno Smith at quarterback, there's really not much to talk about.
Oakland's still in this. Look, Oakland's still in this. Yeah. They're a mess defensively, but maybe they could piece it back together there. They're still in it in this.
Like, if they win, Chiefs lose, it's like they're tied for first again. So
what a mess in the AFC West.
The AFC West, we were calling it the best division of football at one point.
We were right about the NFC South. We had those two divisions. We were right about the NFC South. We were wrong about the AFC West.
We were wrong. I will hand up. We've effed that one up.
You were wrong, Mike.
On to the Eagles, 6-point favorites, traveling to Seattle. Who would have thought that would be the case?
What a game.
Seattle, though, like I mentioned before, without Chancellor and Sherman, all of a sudden you're not a good defense anymore. You're not that defense that changes, the way teams have to face you.
And even when those guys were healthy, they were not getting after the quarterback the way they had in recent years. They had been a top 5 pass rushing defense the last 5 since 2013. 13, 14, 15, and 16. And this year they're in the bottom third of the league as far as getting after the quarterback efficiently from a percentage standpoint and just from a speed to the quarterback standpoint. So that has been an issue there. I'm looking on the other side of the ball. Eagles are rolling 7 deep in legit defensive linemen, and Seattle's rolling like 1 deep in legit offensive linemen. So it's not a good matchup.
Dude, that is going to be hilarious to watch. Not for Russell Wilson. That's going to be tragic for him. But
this does feel like the game, though, where it's just superhuman Russell shows up, right?
I'm hoping for the coveted all 4 guys, all 4 1.5s across the board. I've never had one. I had 3 1.5s before.
When was that?
That was in a college game.
Was it an RPO, Mike? Did you misread it?
No.
Did you misread it?
No. So what I'm getting at here is the 1.5 is like the highest grade we'll give a pass rusher on a given play if you just own an offensive lineman. That I'm looking for 4 guys across the board all getting a 1.5 at once.
You think it's Brandon Graham, Fletcher Cox?
Yes.
You think it's
you get Jernigan,
and
then either
maybe Barnett,
or Curry or Barnett. One of them get a 1.5, and I think this could be the game.
And Wilson still gets out of it and makes his own 1.5 throw.
This could be the game. That's really such a bad matchup though for the Seahawks. Like it looks like it's going to be one of those games where they just can't sustain a drive because of it.
This is fascinating. This is the first year Russell Wilson has really had this much pressure on him, not pressure from opposing defenses, but the pressure on him to just not screw up in a game, right? To win the game, doesn't have the run game, never has had the offensive line, but doesn't have the defense to rely on. He's won shootouts before in the past. It feels like he's got to do it every single week now. And if he doesn't, they're going to lose. This is kind of like the way Drew Brees has had to play.
The bizarro Andrew Luck. They've switched.
He's
taken over what everyone.
Or him and Brees have completely switched roles.
Yeah.
Brees is playing game manager. Not that that was what Wilson was, but they could win games
heavy.
with Wilson throwing 140 yards. I feel like this is one of those games where he gives that superhuman effort. He has been as high variance, gunslingery as he's ever been, leading the league in big time throws and turnover-worthy throws so far this year.
That is the definition of a gunslinger.
How about that?
I still think, like I said, it's going to be tough for them to sustain an offense.
Is anybody going to beat Philly?
Someone could. I mean, New Orleans definitely could. Minnesota definitely could. But that's a tough team.
This is supposed to be. But I don't care what's going on in Seattle. This is going to Seattle in prime time. Wilson's still there. Baldwin's still there. This is one of the best chances anybody has to beat Philly, and you're not even giving them a chance.
No chance. I give them 0 chance in this game.
We all took Philly across the board here, but I wouldn't be surprised if it is that shootout type of game. I wouldn't be surprised if Russell Wilson has a superhuman effort that pulls it out, but I did pick Philly.
All right, on to the Monday Night Football game. AFC North matchup. Steelers 5-point favorites traveling to Cincinnati to face the Bengals.
Hometown game, Mike.
I might be down there at the Banks.
Let's go to the game.
I might be watching it from close by. I'm the only one to pick the Bengals here. I believe. Why don't you believe?
Are you aware of Andy's primetime stats?
Oh, give them to me. I mean, they're not going to be good.
I don't have them handy. They're just bad.
Yeah, I know.
Because everybody on Twitter thinks Andy's bad. They only see him in primetime when he's not good.
Mm-hmm.
He's a pretty good 1 o'clock on Sunday quarterback.
Yeah,
that's what I'll say.
The Steelers, though, one of the most interesting things I found when looking at this matchup, they have just owned A.J. Green of late. Last 3 games, he's averaging less than 1 yard per route run against the Steelers.
Wow.
That's a good one. Be fewer. It might be fewer than one yard per route run.
We'll get the grammar hammer on it.
I think
we'll look it up for you.
But against everyone else, he's averaging 3, which would be the best in the NFL since the start of 2016. If he didn't have to face the Steelers.
What a stat, Mike! It's a good stat,
right?
And Pittsburgh and their zone coverages, which they've been busting a little bit since Joe Hayden's gone down.
Mm-hmm.
They've been letting some guys behind the defense.
Road Steelers too are not the same as home Steelers,
They're not.
They gave up some yards to Brett Hundley last week. Like this team. Steelers are another team that's been a lot of smoke and mirrors-y to me in terms of how they got to where they are record-wise.
They're a team that they pulled one out against the Colts a couple weeks ago. They pulled this one out against Green Bay. They played that tight Sunday night game against Detroit a few weeks back. They did just beat the Bengals pretty handily at home. You're right, though. They are a different team. I think that's the one thing that might make it a little bit closer. I still like Pittsburgh. Ben Roethlisberger is playing as well as he's played all season this last few weeks. He's hot. He's up to our number 3 quarterback right now.
He is hot.
Great game against Green Bay, and him and Antonio Brown, tough to stop. So I'm taking Pitt.
Yeah, it's more just a gut feeling. Like for me, like there's not a lot of reasons I should say that the Bengals are going to win this. They're 5-6. The Steelers 9-2. They're not. Their backs are sort of against the wall. Like if they don't win this, they are not making the playoffs. I'd say just in terms of what they're looking up at in the AFC at 5-7. So I think that's the only reason I'm actually picking them is that it's a must win. Call it a must win.
I put the nail in their coffin a few weeks ago. So
okay,
they're trying to bang out, bust out of it or something.
Yeah, so everyone else picked Pittsburgh. I picked the Bengals. That's it for us. Hope you guys enjoyed it. We'll be back previewing all games again next week.